whatever streaming services there are, however much telly there is, it is still a really special thing to be on BBC One on Christmas Day. Brendan, when you're writing that, are you terrified? Are you excited?
A little bit of both. And I'd love to say that, you know, it starts to get exciting or terrifying around September. It doesn't. Already I'm thinking about what the fuck am I going to do with next year's Christmas tree? The Christmas tree is the one that really gets me. I go, I have to have something with the Christmas tree.
Did you like this year's Christmas tree?
Oh, yeah.
What
yeah.
was this year's Christmas tree?
And you have to forgive us. And I know we got one or two members of the press down there. I did some interviews earlier on in the week. We get into a routine of, it started when we did the very first series, because we were very inexperienced on television. So we did the very first episode, and it went great. We rehearsed all week, and then we went in, did a tech rehearsal, and then we recorded 2 shows, and the audience went crazy, and we went up to the green room after, and we all got a few drinks, well, more than a few drinks, we got fucking langered. And so the next morning was Friday morning, we got up, we said, okay, we'll go in for the reading for the second episode. We should be finished around 12. And we got in at 12, and we did the thing, and Ben was directing.
You know this, Ben?
When we did all the reading, and Ben said, that's great, well done, well done. We said, that's great. So what time Monday? He said, no. We start blocking now. Sorry? So we start blocking for next week's show. We went, fuck off. And nobody wanted to talk about yesterday's show.
The first time I heard of it.
We thought we did fantastic, but nobody wanted to talk about it. So you get into a routine of, oh, God, forget about that one now, because you've new lines to learn, you've new everything to do, and so you forget. And you get into that routine, and what happens to me with the Christmas episodes is, we go in October, we do them, I go, oh, thank God they're done, that's great. And then a month later, Mary from BBC is looking for press interviewers, and they ring the press, they ring for an interview, and I'm going, so they say, so what's Christmas Day's episode about? And I'm going, I haven't a fucking clue.
Well, this one, I mean, genius, ripping off Alexa, loved that. Do you have an Alexa, or have you just seen people struggling with it?
I've seen people struggling with it, and I had it in the house maybe for about a week, did we? For about a week, and then I just, you know, if something's wrong if I'm starting to argue with a fucking machine. So I got rid of it. But I must tell you, I must let you in on an in-joke, which...
Do.
I deliberately called it a McGee. For those of you that aren't Irish won't know that in
Go on.
in Ireland, a derogatory term for a lady's part is gee.
Half an idea.
So I called it a McGee.
So you could say...
So when it's going out on television in the UK, people will be going, it's called McGee. But in Ireland, when Mrs. Brown says, hold on a second, let me ask McGee, the Irish audience will be going, huh? But it was fun to do.
And Jenny, let me ask you what might be an obvious question, but what is it like sitting opposite your husband, dressed up like that, trying not to laugh and deliver your lines?
Like this?
Should see her laughing when I'm naked.
No, but come on, Emmy,
No,
you've
thanks.
seen Mrs. Brown.
In there, Jen.
She's nothing like Brendan. In there. He's always the director, even though the director is sitting on stage. Is it this one here, love? Is
That's
it?
you, love, yeah.
Okay.
Right, enough of that for you now. That's enough of that.
Yeah, enough. Oh, no, Dan. Yeah, take that one.
That's fucking mine.
No. It's very weird. It's not like you're going to get, oh God, it's not Brendan. He becomes the character. But look at her. She looks nothing like Brendan. So once I walk on stage with Mrs. Brown, Brendan isn't there anymore. So that's the truth.
And Kathy's a bit down in the dumps this Christmas. It's not a great Christmas for her.
Always.
She's always done.
Well, somebody asked me once, is Kathy ever going to get a boyfriend that stays?
Maybe.
And the answer was, not as long as she's married to the writer. It's just not going to happen.
And we get to meet Buster's long-lost son,
Yeah.
Would you like to tell us who plays him?
Buster,
That's your microphone.
actually, you can hear me from here, yeah?
Yeah, there you go. See, it's the way you do it.
Oh, is it? Thanks, Anne.
Yeah. Buster's long lost son is Blister, and he's actually played by my youngest son, my 8-year-old Blake. So, yeah, I felt bad for Dad, actually, because he begged and begged and begged for years.
Since he was 2,
Yeah.
Blake has been saying, Dad, Granddad,
when can I
I
get
turn the show? Well, they all 6 of my grandsons do the same. When's their turn on the show? But particularly Blake. Blake, of all the grandchildren,
his
he's most
older
like me.
brother plays Bono on the show as well. Mrs. Brown's grandson is his older brother, so he always sees his older brother in there. He sees me in there. His mom plays Betty in the show, so he's always wondering, when am I going to get a go? So this year, finally, Granddad gave him his wish.
But do you remember,
I have
do you
to
remember when we were in Florida during the summer? We were at home in Florida and you guys were out. And Blake, who so wanted to be in the show for so long, said, "Now, I don't want to be just like Bono. I don't want to be in one scene. I want to have like loads of lines."
That's what he said. I don't want to walk on, walk off.
And then when he told him, to kind of get him used to it, he said, "Your line is going to be, so what?" And he's going, "That's not a line, Grandad. That's just 2 words." But he kept going around in Florida all summer. When we'd just be sitting around at night and it was just at appropriate times, he'd go, "So what?" He was practicing all summer for that.
He
part.
reminds
Actually,
me.
after the episode, we did the episode, and the way it is, we shoot it twice in a day in front of 2 different audiences. So there's a time limit. The kids have to be in the studio with BBC, so he had to leave quite early after his bits. He had to go home, and we had to carry on doing the show. And when I got home eventually, I came home and he was in his bed, but out in the sitting room in the apartment was all these little pieces of paper with his autograph, Blake. I just thought, oh no, he's so taken after me.
You took the words out of my mouth, because I was just going to say to you, do you know who used to do that? You did that, and you used to sign your autograph on
I haven't
anything.
seen it yet, so I'm dying to see him, and I hope he was good.
We were very
It felt
good.
good when we did it, so.
Yeah,
You
we
said
were
you were
very
very-
good. We didn't watch it with all of you guys because we watch it with the kids on
We
Christmas
watch it on Christmas Day,
so
and we
didn't
watch it,
want-
and we watch it like that.
Danny, you said you were very nervous having him on set with you. You
Yeah,
were
it was a
nervous
bit.
for him.
Yeah, well, you're nervous enough going out doing it yourself. Obviously, you want to nail the script and you want to pull the part off right. But when it's your son and your youngest son, his first time on set to be in front of a live audience, you're sort of crapping yourself. You really are. You're forgetting to sort of act yourself, and you're worried about him. And I felt myself having to stop worrying about him and do my thing, but he nailed it. It felt like he nailed it on the day. So I was very proud.
Not only did he nail it, can I just say that, he's of all the grandchildren, the 6 grandsons that we have, he's the one that's most like me when I was that age. He
really
reminds
is.
me so much
Yeah,
of me
I
at
know.
that age. And he has, there's a line in it, I think Ben left it in, where Buster's saying, I had a great day, he puts his hand out and he just goes, "Goodbye," and leaves.
Oh, we played on that so bad.
But
Like he made a lump of that was
Well,
no acting involved.
well,
I was nearly going to cry. I was like, oh, you fucker.
That's what I'm saying. When we started it off, it was goodbye, and he left. By the time we got to the second show,
Oh,
Buster said, "I really had a great day," and he goes, "Goodbye." I just went, "The little shit." But he did great. He really did.
Paddy, give us an insight into what it's like working on this show, because it looks like a riot. What's it like actually being
Shite.
on it?
The pressure now. Yeah, no pressure on one side, the writer on the other.
and the talent here.
Oh, excuse me.
It's great fun. We like Brian said, we go in Monday, and it's kind of unusual for us because we spend the guts of it. Friday. I don't usually do Fridays, but we go in and we spend
explains a lot.
Yeah, well, we spend a week rehearsing it, and it's great fun. Like I really enjoy it the whole week.
But Monday, Paddy, is when you and I.
Well,
are
Monday
the
you're
only
supposed
ones.
to be off the script,
Yeah,
and
you
most
and
of the
me are the
cast
only
don't
ones that are
bother.
off the script.
But it is. If you're not doing a scene, you're going to be sitting backstage having great crack with everyone, and then you go on and you've the likes of himself down the end, who it's his job to drive the show on. So when you're doing the rehearsal, you'd expect him to be actually trying to get it right, and he doesn't, and he says things under his breath to throw you in rehearsals that Ben isn't hearing. And it's little things like
I'm not hearing them.
you end up getting an ear lashing for not doing it right, and Brendan's gone, fucking lovely, got him again. And it's just great fun, there's great development, and come Thursday then, you would expect to be comfortable enough going on, doing the show, and you're standing, it's always the same, standing backstage waiting to go on, and you think, I've done the work, I know the lines, and you walk in the door, and he'll look at you, and he has this way of looking at you, and I don't know how he does, but he just basically says, you're fucked. And all the week's work is gone out the window, and you're just going, I just want to get out of here now, and just move on with my life.
But do you feel sometimes, I mean, the audience kind of wants you to make a couple of mistakes because that's part of the fun.
Yeah,
They're used to
But
it.
we don't. We honestly don't.
I
want
don't
to
need
make
any
mistakes.
and I don't need anybody's help to make mistakes. Like it's he does it again. You know, it's the total opposite to what you would expect. You know, the star, the writer, the creator, all these things, and he's the one who causes all the trouble. So, like, and I'd go to Ben after it, and I'd be like, "That was him," you know. And Ben's like, "I heard him, I seen it, it's fine." You know, we've got it covered. And
But he also has a way when he when there is a muck up in the show, or you can see there was something went wrong. It's usually him that's after fucking up, but makes it out that it's us that fucked up. So he's really good at that. And
Danny, let me just explain something to you. You make a mistake, it's called a fuck up. When I do it, it's called a rewrite. Can I just add a little bit of history about Paddy, because Paddy is family, even though he's not family, he is family. Paddy's been coming in and out of our home since he was about 7 years of age. And Paddy, you wouldn't think it now when you look at him, but Paddy, when he was a young fellow, was just a little barrel.
a big barrel now.
But he was the shyest little kid you ever saw in your life. When he come in, one of those kids to stand there with his hands, you know, hello, Mr. Carroll, hello, hello. And Danny used to keep coming in, and this is going on through their their late infants and early teens, where Danny would come in and go, Dad, Paddy is so funny. He's going to be an actor, you know. He's going to be a great actor. And I sat Danny down one day and I said, Danny, look, Paddy's a lovely guy, but if there's ever a kid I saw that's not going to be a fucking actor, it's Paddy.
how fucking right were you?
And Paddy eventually, when they both left school and did their final exams, they were 18 years of age. Paddy's father was managing director of a company called Tipperary Water in Ireland, and Paddy went delivering water, driving trucks and delivering water. And Danny used to keep saying, Dad, you know, any chance Paddy get on the road, and any chance, you know. So eventually, a spot opened up on the road with the crew. And I said to Danny, do you want me to offer it to Paddy? And he said, yeah. So I offered it to Paddy, and it literally was sweeping the stage, running around. It was every one of the cast that you see on the television at some stage have swept the stage, have ran errands, have
Build the sets.
they built the sets, they painted the sets, they did everything, because it's important for us that everybody who gets to stand out front on TV or on stage understand what it takes behind them to make that happen. Because believe me, even the security man Tommy in Glasgow, if he's not there, there's no fucking show. So Tommy is just as important as Mrs. Brown, and they have to understand that. So we're giving them that as they're growing up as kids. So Paddy was about 18 at the time, and we were doing Mrs. Brown, and Glasgow. Yeah, Glasgow, the theatre in Glasgow, the Pavilion Theatre in Glasgow said, what about this play, your first play, The Course? We'd like to run that play.
That's amazing, by the way. You're going to love that. We will do that again. Yeah.
So, Danny's promoter. So I said, yeah, well, we could do a run of it, I suppose. But, you know, they wanted to do it for 6 weeks. And I said, I don't know, putting everything together just for 6 weeks run. So we took Liverpool as well. We said we do 6 weeks in Liverpool and 6 weeks there. And then, of course, I have to work out who am I going to cast in the show, because in Mrs. Brown's Boys, there's a cast of about 11. In The Course, there's only a cast of 7. So I'm working out who I'm going to cast here, who I'm going to cast there. And there's a particular part in the play, in that first play, Ben is the character, and he carries a lot of the comedy in it. And in the show, Ben's about 30 years of age, he's a farm boy, he's a bit of a lad. And I'm trying to work out, and Jenny said, what about casting Paddy? And I said, I don't know. You know, he's not experienced enough, and Jenny said, I think he could do it. I think he could handle it. So 2 things about that. First of all, I cast Paddy, and he stole the fucking show. I mean, he just stole the show, head to toe.
And the rest is history.
And the second part was, because I was going to cast Paddy, I had no part for Danny.
I didn't mind.
It's a tough business, Brendan. Fuck him.
No.
So
It's true. Danny said he didn't care so long as Paddy got his
he said,
shot.
I'll work backstage, Dad. I don't care as long as Paddy gets a shot. And that's
I didn't think you'd take me serious.
So Ben,
the point I'm trying to get to is that if you watch Mrs. Brown or if you watch a TV series or you've come to the live show, you can see that between them. You can see that chemistry between them. And they're currently writing a movie about Dermot and Buster.
Written.
Danny, I read the script. You're writing it. Trust me, I've read a lot of scripts. It's not fucking written. But which Ben hopefully will direct with Universal, starring the two of them as Dermot and Buster, but in a as a bit of a spin-off, and they're currently doing that, and I think it's going to be really, really successful. But what's going to make it successful is that chemistry that they have with each other. There's something that they have that is very, very rare. You see it. You saw it in Markham and Wise.
I think it's called gay.
You can't fucking say that nowadays. Danny.
let me bring Ben in. Let me ask Ben a question. What
Oh,
is-
for fuck.
Here we go.
I'll keep it short. Don't worry. Keep
Here
it
we
short.
go.
Keep it short. Keep it short.
What is it like directing these guys? What is it like?
Look at him. Look at the body language.
Herding cats.
Anything goes. Ask me anything, it'll be fine.
What's it like trying to tell a story but keeping the anarchy in there and keeping it fun and fresh?
It's actually really easy. The moment it took me a while to get the job because he was playing hard to get right at the beginning when I was asked to watch the pilot and then go up for possibly directing the series. They said, okay, we need to speak to Brendan and he needs to decide who to have. And I spent 2 weeks trying to get hold of him. And he was on the golf course or not returning the call. I mean, hundreds of times I'd say, okay, I'll be at home between 12 and midnight, and this is my phone number, and this is my Skype number, everything else, nothing. 2 weeks. And I was editing with Mark, who's in the audience there, editing Armstrong and Miller. Much the same sort of show, really.
Sure.
And eventually a phone call came through. It was him. And a 30-second phone call, and he gave me the job. And I said, can it really be that easy? He said, fuck yes. He said, life is too complicated, it needs to be kept simple. You've got the job, we'll do it.
I had spoke to other people before that. They gave me a list of people to speak to, and I don't know, there's something about Ben.
You
There was
just
something.
didn't click with them.
Well, not that I didn't click with them. They all sounded very professional. They all sounded very good.
I thought you said they weren't available.
Yeah, they weren't available.
They weren't
yeah.
available.
Now he tells me.
But I had already got a heads up, in fairness, from the producer at the time, Stephen McCrum, who'd give me a heads up that would be his choice.
Yeah.
Ben would be his choice, but I should talk to all four. He gave me 4 directors to talk to, and I talked to the first one I talked to. He said, "Well, I've directed comedy all over the place." Yes. And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, this is what I do," and that's it. "Oh, yes. Well, I'm your man." So it won't be fucking him anyway. I didn't even tell you this. I FaceTimed him, but he didn't have a FaceTime account, so we had to do it on his.
Skype.
I Skyped you, yeah, and you had to do it on your daughter's phone.
I had to set up. I used my daughter's account because I didn't know what Skype was.
Well, because he had
Going
to.
back a while.
Because he had to do all that with his daughter. I mean, already he had the gig. I just went, well, he's going to be the man for me. And literally 30 seconds is all it took. We had a quick chat in 30 seconds, and I fell in love. And he became my captain.
Yeah.
And he
Well,
still is.
Captain.
Yeah, go on, yeah. I've got tons more questions, but I think it's important to let these guys ask some questions.
Yes,
so
please.
Put your hands up. There's a lady here, yeah.
Obviously when you get a script, first thing you go for your lines and mark off your lines.
Not everybody, Danny.
And then, well, I do. And then you go through the script and you read the script and you actually can see in parts where actually Brendan could do something here. He could catch us here. He could catch us here. And that part in the script, we knew straight away. There's no way we're going to come in dressed like we were and him not to do anything with us. and let us go. There wasn't a hope.
Ben and I would
So-
usually have it planned.
So we.
Oh, really?
No, not this Ben. No, another Ben. Another Ben.
We decided we'll rehearse a dance, hoping that he asked us to dance, and boom, he did.
Oh, it was so good.
We nailed,
was,
we nailed it,
wasn't it?
sort of.
That thing that Danny said, where he said you can spot in the script sometimes where, when I write scripts for our stage play, because we were doing this for 14 years on the stage before we went near television. And when I write script for the stage plays, I'd always put in B.O.B., a bit of business. So a bit of business basically is, I don't know what's going to happen, but there'll be a bit of business. So when I did the first script for the BBC and I met with the execs, those who need to be obeyed, all very Etonian, and we sat down and one of them said to me, "Can I ask you a question, Brendan?" I said, "Yeah, sure." "Who's Bob?" So I said, "Bob? Yes, he seems to be in it quite a lot, but doesn't have any lines." I said, "I'm sorry, you have me. I don't know who you're talking about. Let me show you. Here, Bob." "Oh," I said, "Oh, Bob. No, that's a bit of business." "Sorry?" "That's a bit of business. See where it says the doorbell rings, Mrs. Brown goes to answer the door. Bob." "Yes." "Well, between the time, if she's in the kitchen and the fucking doorbell goes, by the time she gets to the door, there'll be a bit of business." "Oh, right, excellent. What will that be?" I said, I don't know." "Oh, right. When will we know that?" I said, "When the fucking doorbell rings." So,
Let's get.
that's it. That's basically it.
Cameramen love Brendan.
I have to go home with him tonight, so genius, definitely.
Another question.
I refute that remark. I am not a genius. If I was a genius, I wouldn't have to work as hard as I do. I'm just very glad to be working. I'm only trained to do one thing. I spent 4 years, from 13 to 17 years of age, training to be a waiter. I trained up as far as Cordon Rouge, and I was 18 years in the hotel business. So, truthfully, the only thing I'm really trained to do is serve tables. But every day I wake up, I'm pretty glad I'm not serving tables.
Oh.
It's funny. I for the very first time when we did the pilot, and it was November the 13th. We were told we have a series with the BBC, that they'd commissioned the series, and I knew at some stage there was going to be a fuck meeting. There'd be a fuck meeting in the BBC. So I was prepared for it. But funny enough, it didn't happen before we did the first series. And that probably was because at that stage, Jay Hunt was controller, I think, or head, whatever she was in the BBC. And the day I went down for that first fuck meeting, I flew down in Glasgow. It was the day she left. So I arrived down for a meeting with her, and she had left that day. And Jenny was up in Glasgow looking at TV, you seen it on the news headlines saying, "What the fuck did Brendan say?"
So true.
So we didn't have the meeting. We didn't have that meeting. So we went on and made the first series. So at the end of that first series, Danny
Cohn.
Danny Cohn?
Yeah.
Danny Cohn had taken over now as controller. So I was calling in for a fuck meeting. I was calling in for a meeting. So I went in with producer Steve McCrum and at that time Mark Freeland, who was he was supposed to be head of comedy, but he really just packed cars. So I arrived in, and so Danny Cohn, who was mighty big, and he was swinging in the chair. He was swinging in the chair. So he spent the first 10 minutes telling me how lucky the BBC felt to have found me and the family, and how wonderful Mrs. Brown's Boys was, and how hilarious it was, and how that he liked that we, that as well as the comedy, there was also pathos there, and hopefully a message at the end where, at the end of the day, families fall in, they fall out, but you know, there's always something in the family that keeps them together. And we were going through all this, so I'm now getting fucking bored. So eventually I said, Danny, I said, can we cut to the chase? You want me to stop saying fuck so you can put it on 8 o'clock? And he said, exactly. I said, look, Brendan, he said, we want to make you a big star. We really do. We at the BBC want to make you a big headline star, and we really, you know. I said, okay, 2 things. First of all, I don't want to be a big star. I never wanted to be a big star, I never did. And number 2, the show's the show. Really. Put it on at 8 o'clock, or put it on at 10:30, or put it on at 12:30. People who want to see it will find it. But the show's the show. I don't care when you put it on, but we're not changing the show.
You did say you would put it on.
So he said, well, I will personally oversee it when it goes on. I said, well, you do that. Now, I have to say, maybe, 6 months later, we were playing. When
we were in the Apollo.
We were in the Apollo. At that stage, we'd won a BAFTA. And the show was successful, thank God, touch wood. And we were playing in the Apollo, and Danny came to see the show. Danny Cohen did. And after he came to see the show, we were in the green room afterwards for a couple of drinks in the Apollo. And he had to leave early, so I walked him down to the gate. And as we got to the gate, he said to me, can I just say something to you, Brendan? I brought you in for a meeting, blah, 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 intending to try and get you to change what you do. I got it very wrong. He said, you are a rare talent, and we are blessed at the BBC just to have a loan of that talent. Don't change. And it isn't.
So the answer to your question is yes, there has been a meeting.
Can I just say something, though?
No, it's the answer.
No, but Brendan never sits to write the script for any of the specials and goes, well, where will I put a swear word? You know from us, in Dublin people...
If you read the script, there's never
it's the
fucking
way
in-
we
in-
speak. If somebody says fuck or feck or whatever, it's like a comma or an exclamation mark. It's part of the way we speak. It's not actually meant
also,
as an offensive
in the
thing.
show, I don't know if anybody notices, nobody else.
Agnes is the only one who ever says
Agnes is
fuck.
the only one that says book.
Fuck.
Nobody
Yeah.
else. Fuck now and again.
But it's the way we
But
speak.
nobody else, no other
It
character would
is
say it.
bucking right at the beginning of one of them. It's a definite bucking. It's not a fucking.
Yes.
Just in
Yes.
case
But,
Shane
but
and Charlotte
also-
are suddenly concerned. We did
But-
change it.
Yeah, but Brendan made a great point once and said there's things that happen pre-Watershed that have 4-letter words in them, like kill.
Or hate.
They're much more offensive than the word fuck.
Also,
I'll stand up to that, Jimmy.
if you know, I wouldn't ever undermine the intelligence of an audience. Do you think the audience is not capable of making that leap, that this is an Irish show, these are Irish people? Most British people, especially up till, the 19th of March, when they tow you out to the middle of the Atlantic. But most British people have either Irish connections or Irish relatives or Irish, and they know how we speak. And we've never ever said the word fuck to mean what it means.
Yeah, no, it's...
We say it to be, we'd say like, I was there last night, you wouldn't believe. I thought there'd be about 20 there. There was 120 there. 120. Now, I don't understand how in that context that can be offensive. I really don't. But I do understand that, some people do get offended. Trust me, there are words, when some people say them, I go, oh, no, that doesn't suit you. But there are people who are able to say whatever they like. Again, I don't mean to take up your time, because I know we only have a little bit of time, but Stephen McCrum saw this show on a rainy night in Glasgow. He came in and saw the show. We didn't know he was coming to see the show. It wasn't heralded. He came to the dressing room afterwards. I didn't know who the fuck he was. I had no idea. He didn't introduce himself, except he was extremely posh. Jenny walked into the dressing room and kind of looked. I said, I don't know. And he saw me doing that, and he said, oh, let me introduce myself. Stephen McCrum, BBC. I won't beat around the bush. Would you like to make a sitcom of this? And I went, yeah, sure, whatever. The reason I was so blasé is because I've been offered that before. BBC Scotland had offered it. Channel 4 had offered it. ITV had offered it. But they always then, once they get into the offer and get past that bit, they go, you know who would be wonderful as Cathy? Do you know who'd be great as Buster? Do you know? And I go,
Who? Me. Me.
So I would write it off, and they also would say, of course, we'd have to tidy it up a bit, clean it up a bit, you know. And I go, okay. So they don't get it. McCrum was different. McCrum, first of all, afterwards, Jenny said, this is great that BBC are interested. I said, Jenny, it doesn't work like that. They don't come up and give you a business card. They would come and talk to our people, or, you know, I'd be wheeled in at the last minute. I'd be the last person to be fucking told that there was an interest. It doesn't work like that. The second meeting I had with McCrum, I realised this actually is quite serious. So I said to him, what do you think of the cast? Well, you know, who would you cast? And he said, I don't think it would work without the cast you have. They all gel together.
I liked him.
Fucking right answer.
I liked
Right
him.
answer. So the conversation went on, and eventually I went, what about the language? And he went, what language? And I said, well, you know, the odd, when she says, fuck this, and he goes, but you're Irish, isn't that the way you people talk? So I immediately went, fuck you. But I said, yeah, well, actually we do. But we never ever mean it to be offensive. And I'm also not suggesting that all Irish people talk like that. They don't. But I know that I grew up, that's the way my mother talked. I'm the youngest of 11 kids. My mother was not a fool. She was a very intelligent woman. She was the only female member of the Irish Parliament in 1953. She was the first woman elected to the Irish Parliament, had 11 kids, started as a nun. She was a hell of a woman. And she said, fuck. The Late Late Show was a huge success. Parkinson would be the nearest thing that I could imagine matching it to in Ireland. You know, there was no sex in Ireland before the Late Late Show. The Late Late Show discovered, they discovered abortion. The Late Late Show discovered, there's a man called Gay Byrne who was a wonderful, wonderful television presenter, and he's not unwell at the moment. I hope he gets better, but yeah. He's an amazing man. And the actual, you know when they go for an ad break? There's a little ditty that they play going into the ad break, and that ditty is, it started on the Late Late Show. And that's because if you've never been on TV, if you've ever been on TV, you don't get on the Late Late Show. It starts on the Late Late Show. So, the Pogues, U2, Boyzone, Westlife, Brendan O'Carroll, they all start on the Late Late Show. You get a spot on the Late Late Show, it's a huge, huge thing in Ireland. Now, I knew that. I also knew that it was going to be a 9-minute interview. So I had 9 minutes to make my claim. It turned out to be the longest interview he's ever done with a comedian. It was 35 minutes. I had him crying, laughing. Thank God. And the next day, everybody in Ireland knew my name. It was absolutely astonishing. I can't even tell you.
I actually remember it. I remember walking to the shop and stuff there.
It is just astonishing, the change. The Late Late Show was done on a Friday night. On the Thursday night, I did a gig for 350 quid, out of which I had to pay me band. I had a band with me. So I had to pay me band out of that 350 quid. And the following Tuesday after that, I gigged for £3,500 pounds. I mean, it's that amazing. Now, the problem is, and the problem was for me, is that it really was genuinely like an overnight success. I became fucking massive. My first tour of Ireland was 208 nights, one-nighters on the trot. Getting paid in cash, I'd fucking money everywhere. And so I had got into this business hoping it would be a well-paid mixer as a comedian. I didn't think it would be a career. And all of a sudden, this became very, very much the idea of a career. Now, what happened to me then was, and it happens to a lot of people, I'm flawed. I started to think I was the guy in the poster. I'm not. The guy in the poster is an act. I'm not the guy in the poster. So I started to think that everything I touched turned to gold. So I decided to write and make a movie. Sparrow's Trap is the name of the movie. And I wrote it, I wrote a novel on the movie as well. But I wrote the movie called Sparrow's Trap. I played Sparrow in it, who's an up-and-coming boxer, and it's very much based on my own experiences in that I come from an area in Dublin called Finglas. Finglas is a tough area. It's a population of 96,000 people, and at any given time there's 9 policemen on duty. So there's 1 policeman for every 10,000 people, basically. If you have 2 ears in Finglas, you're a fucking sissy. I grew up in that, and that was my... But there's a way out of that. And the main way out of that for a lot of kids is either through sport or through entertainment. So you won't be surprised to hear that a lot of entertainers come out of that kind of background, a lot of sportsmen,
Brendan,
boxers.
so sorry, but I'm getting told off.
Sorry.
Get towards the
But
end
basically
of
what
the
happened was, what happened went missing. I made that movie. I lost my distributor just before I started shooting. The budget was 2.2 million. I had £30,000 is all I had. And I completely went bust and spent the next 3 years paying everybody back.
But look at you
Well,
now.
look at you now, Brendan.
There you
Fair
go.
play. We love you.
We honestly could be here all night. I wish we could, but there's another screening. Thank you for being here.
And I don't want to labour, but an interviewer asked me once. He said, and you failed at that, and how do you feel about that? I said, well, I'll tell you how I feel. That's my failure. Where's your fucking effort?